Hey, Steve Mignonti here in a private physical therapy clinic because I got encephalitis back in September and haven't been able to do new videos for the Junkyard Crawl. But in the meantime, we figure something's better than nothing. And a lot of people don't realize that we've got something like 330 videos in the channel playlist for the Steve Mignonti YouTube channel. So if you're having withdrawal from no new videos, you can actually check out some of the classics that you might not have seen before. And in the meantime, before we get rolling with this, we're going to run a bunch of heavy-duty truck videos in a string of maybe 10 of them. So every day you'll get a good fix of Mack trucks, Diamond T's, Rios, Peterbilts. Well, no Peterbilts, actually. Those are a little too big for the junkyard. But basically Ford and GMC, even Toro Flow V6 diesels. Crazy stuff. So we're going to run those things in the next several days. So please stay tuned to the Steve Mag's YouTube channel. By all means, give us a thumbs up. And quickly, I want to thank Rick DeBrule and Tyler Hoover for keeping the channel alive in December and January and really stepping up. So thanks, guys. Well, roll the tape. Hey, Steve Mignonti here doing the Junkyard Crawl at Bernardston Auto Wrecking in Bernardston, Massachusetts with a 1954 Ford F500 six-wheel dump truck. Now this here is like a 1933 or maybe a 34 Ford pickup truck. And in 20 years' time, Ford really went from the Stone Age to, well, the Jet Age, in a way. Now, this thing here, being a 1954, the second year for the curved windshield, the same basic cab was used in 1952 and before that, but with that said, the curved windshield came along for 1953, adding something of a modern vibe. Now, the cab and the hood on these trucks are very similar to F100 pickup trucks and can be used. However, there are some differences in the cab floor, but the fenders themselves, while these look like an F100 pickup truck fender in shape, they're not the same. They have a much larger opening for the massive 5-ton wheels that this thing is riding on. The grille, which is missing here, does interchange from the F900 all the way down to the F100. And again, somebody snatched this one probably to put into an F100 pickup truck. But something new for 1954 that really revolutionized Ford trucks was under the hood. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the debut edition Y-Block V8. Before 1954, this would have been a Flathead, which is an ancient engine from 1932. Not a bad engine, but with that said, the Y-Block debuted with 239 cubes, the same number, but with free-breathing overhead valves, cylinder heads, push rods, rocker arms, quite a bit more power. Now, the base engine was, again, the 239. There was also a 256 cubic inch Y-Block from the Mercury line, also available in Ford trucks. And for the biggest jobs, the 317 cubic inch Lincoln V8, which was an overhead valve engine, was different from the Y-Block. Actually, different cylinder heads, quite a bit different engine, but again, 239, 256, and 317 cubes could be had. Overhead valve motors here. Finally, no more Flatheads in 1954, first year. Now, 1958 would bring something called the Super Duty, and that would have been Ford's first line of engines designed specifically for trucks, and those were available in 401, 477 and 534 cubic inches. 1958, the Super Duty line, so legendary, they still use the Super Duty name on Ford's biggest trucks to this very day. But again, 1954, these were passenger car-based engines right here, adapted for use in trucks. The differences were the water pump here on a truck puts the fan higher than it would in a passenger car, so it has a better shot at the radiator. Also, the motor mounts on a truck are chin-style motor mounts. They go under the harmonic damper at the front, under the crank, whereas on a passenger car, they're on the sides of the block. Compression ratio is the same, 7.2, so it'll run on any kind of gas, no problem with that. Different oil filter on trucks, a little more heavy duty, and of course, the air cleaner, if it was here, would be a oil bath on a truck. Now, this carburetor here is the 2-barrel. It says Motorcraft. I think that's a later carburetor. It does not look like original equipment. Not sure. That's a modern car, but again, this is an old Y-Block. Some seen on the side. When you go to the junkyard, you always want to open your eyes and pay close attention. Somebody wrote on this, it says 1957 Ford 312 cubic inch, 312. That could tell us this is a Thunderbird long block in a truck. This might be a 312, which is the most desirable of all of the Ford Y-Blocks. Of course, the 312, the 292, the 256, the 239. But again, you just don't know till you open it up. It might just be the valve cover or somebody's wishful thinking on top of that with a 312 notification. Another thing we see here on this little home-brewed bodywork. Here on the front fender, these are notorious, all of these F-Series trucks, for rusting through here. Soil accumulates. Well, somebody used some tar with some fibrous insert here to create kind of a Bondo filler. That's tar, believe it or not. Look, I can actually peel it off. Yeah, that's tar. So some old barnyard body work right there. Of course, this one being an F500 is right in the middle between the F100 and F900, and this has the 5-lug wheels on it, not the forged 5-spoke type wheels that could also be found on a bigger truck. The doors, let's take a peek inside. And yeah, here's the interior of this one here. This one has probably a 4-speed manual transmission. No power steering, no power brakes. These are strictly the power of the driver to get these things down the road. Now, if we look at the shifter, we'll see it has a little red knob and a cable. That goes to the 2-speed rear axle. We'll get to that in just a moment. But getting back to the lineup of Ford trucks, this is one of the Crestline books right here, Ford Trucks Since 1905 by James K. Wagner. Great books. These are wonderful resources. But in here we can see that 1954, it says here, 54 marked the end of Ford's V8 monopoly among the better-known truck makes, with Dodge introducing several models in its new C1 line. Studebaker Rio V8s followed. So basically V8s were previously a Ford thing. Well, the rest of the industry was catching up. We can see right here the various sizes of Ford trucks, the little guys, F2s, etc. And over on the next page, the big stuff right here. F750 right there. We have an F900 right here, that log truck. And again, these would have had a 317 cubic inch Lincoln-based V8 engine. And again, the Super Duty stuff with as much as 534 cubic inches wouldn't arrive until 1958. And the thing about the Super Duty V8s is that they were designed specifically to be used in gasoline trucks. They were not production car based. They were massive engines. And in fact, Ford never used the Super Duty V8s in passenger cars or anything under about 3 tons. They were big engines for big jobs. Now this one here is kind of unique. We can see some details. A home-brewed gas tank right here based on, looks like an old oil jug or an oil tin, a barrel of oil turned into a gas tank with a bit of pipe threaded neck right there. The original location would have been right here with a neck coming out, and probably the gas tank would have been underneath the running board. So some home brewed stuff on this one here. Now getting back to that 2-speed rear axle, let's take a peek underneath this one. And this, of course, is an open drive, as were all Fords after about 1952. And that thing on the front of the rear axle, that is the 2-speed unit. Now, the thing of it is, with that fairly small engine and as much as, 5 tons cargo, you needed a bunch of gear ratio, like a 6-to-1 in the back of this thing to get this thing moving. But with these really tall tires right here on these 20-inch rims, that 6-to-1 ratio was degraded a lot. So to get the thing off the line, the super low gears, but to go down the road and drive, you might be going 35 miles an hour unless you had a 2-speed rear axle, which we have right here. So that takes that 6-to-1 ratio and turns it like maybe into a 4-to-1, and you can actually cruise along at maybe 60, 65 with a full load. And this is kind of cool. This is the SAE Journal, the Society of Automotive Engineers. This is from December of 1954, right around the time this truck was built. And in here is a cool magazine ad from Timken. And we can see right here, they're talking about how they test their 2-speed rear axles. The TDA proves axle quality in this torture chamber. On the bottom left, we can see right there, we pick one of our axles at random, then duplicate a hauling condition hour after hour, day after day. Or invent a test like going uphill with a full load from California to New York non-stop, something you can never do in the real world. But this dyno here could actually beat a rear axle up so bad, the fist smashing it in half. Now it's all about delivering to you a rear axle that was capable of going the distance. On the right, there's an example of one of many types of 2-speed rear axles. We can see basically where we have the ability to go from like a 6-to-1 to a 4-to-1 gear ratio with the pull of a lever inside the truck on the shifter. So again, 2-speed rear axle, check. An extra cost item on this truck. Coming around to the back, a big old steel dump body right here. Perhaps hydraulic, probably either gear driven or maybe chain, not sure. But on the back of this thing, we can see a lot of home-brewed ad hoc stuff. The trailer hitch has been added, torch cut out of a piece of plate and then welded onto the back, which is also welded on. Again, a lot of can-do attitude with this thing. The dual wheels in the back, of course, on this 6-wheeler. And this right here, they probably use this thing to dump out some hot tar, maybe some sand. This little door right here, you'd lift this thing up, and you'd have a little slot like that. You could tilt it back and then lay out a controlled path of whatever substance was in the back. Let's go around through here. Play limbo like me. And on this side, more of the same. The home-brewed apparently dump body. Let me see what kind of a system we have on this thing to raise and lower it. It's been removed. So whatever it was, it could have been a power takeoff with a little gearbox that would tip it up. Not sure, it's all gone. So it's been harvested. But inside this end of the cab, we can see something that was definitely not born here. Those seats are from a Volkswagen Beetle, about 1972, 73. I recognize them. My dad had one of those things. And they fit right in. This would have had a big old bench seat up front from Ford. But on the floor, we can see some of the controls right there, the remnants probably from that power takeoff to control the dump body, those two levers, and the parking brake in the middle, that big thing with the stick on the end. So again, not a very luxurious cab, and the modern Super Duty, King Ranch, all the modern Ford trucks that are basically as luxurious as a Lincoln Continental. You can enjoy air conditioning, Wi-Fi, all that stuff, while carrying a 5-ton load if you want to on a modern dually Ford truck with a big old diesel with 6 times the power this thing had. But again, in 1954, with its modern overhead valve V8, this F500 was truly about the best it could get for a small job contractor or shop. So again, overhead valves for the first time in 1954, very beginnings of Ford's rise toward the Super Duty empire that we know and love today. Now, if you like this video, be sure to subscribe to the Steve Maggs YouTube channel, give this video a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and ring the bell so you're aware of the next video, which hits tomorrow morning.